You are looking at the largest amount of cocaine ever seized by the Coast Guard. There are almost 62,000 pounds of cocaine and 14,000 pounds of marijuana.
Moments before sunrise, Florida erupted as federal teams smashed into a hidden property tied to the CJNG cartel. Inside the premises lay millions of dollars, lethal pills, weapons, and evidence of something far bigger than drug trafficking. But one final door revealed a truth so vicious, it changed the mission instantly.
The load worth almost $500 million. The Coast Guard official says that there is enough cocaine here to kill every person in the state of Florida.
October 15, 2025. When Orlando was still wrapped in quiet darkness, something thundered through the stillness. A deafening explosion ignited near the entrance of a downtown warehouse district. Its explosion was so intense that it echoed through the empty Orlando streets, turning quiet into chaos in a second. Residents in this area did not know that this was not an accident. It was the first phase of what would turn out to be Florida's largest coordinated anti-drug and corruption raid in decades. Before anyone could figure out what was going on, federal teams from the DEA, FBI, and ICE had already fanned out across the area. Their movement and high level of coordination had taken months to plan. In no time, tactical units had been tightened into formation. Above the houses, surveillance drones were hovering as their infrared lenses swept for any movement. Then, through the radio headsets, one word snapped through the darkness: go. What followed was a swift military-level execution. Every escape route leading to the illegal location was sealed off. Communication signals were dropped, power was cut off, and the property surveillance cameras were disabled. In less than 10 seconds, agents breached the building with explosive charges. Tables flipped under the force of the entry teams as electronics and appliances scattered across the floor. 2 suspects bolted for the back exit with bags of drugs and cash, but they were taken down before they ever reached the alley. When agents tore open the bags, they found piles of narcotics, money, 133 weapons, and gleaming bars of gold. With that, the team was now fully aware that this was an operation far larger than anyone had anticipated. What the agents did not know yet was that this was only the beginning. While they were inspecting the building thoroughly, they discovered suspicious mirrored walls. After destroying these, they were shocked upon uncovering a series of concealed safes built directly into the structure. When cracked open, the vaults revealed mountains of $5 million cash, alongside meth, cocaine, and trays of fentanyl pills designed to mimic prescription medication. Because of these seizures, countless American lives were saved, and waves of potential overdoses were prevented that could have devastated entire communities. Yet nothing prepared the team for what came next. The greatest shock wasn't hidden behind a wall, it was standing in plain sight. Standing inside the VIP room of the building was a man who looked completely out of place. At first, agents thought he was a hostage, until they saw his badge. His sheriff's uniform was impeccable and made it clear that this was indeed a federal officer, but he was not part of the team raiding the building. It then dawned on the team that this was indeed an officer that had decided to betray his own community. His name? Sheriff Marcos Lopez. He stood frozen and was so shaken that he did not even utter a single word. Everything was already obvious. The silence around him made it painfully clear that he was no longer the authority in the room. If the guardian becomes the danger, who protects the innocent? What followed was an extensive search conducted on Lopez, including in his office, vehicle, and home. In the end, they seized encrypted hard drives, burner phones, cash bundles, offshore banking documents, coded ledgers, and multiple devices linked to shell companies and cartel communications. Hidden files showed extensive blueprints of cartel operations, secret folders that had been sealed behind multi-layer encryption, which held the framework of a sprawling financial web titled Operation Eclipse. The investigators were thrown off track. They had never heard that name before, but what lay under that name would soon turn out to be an unforgettable experience for them. As the team dug deeper into the Pandora's box they had just opened, the more the scope of this criminal network expanded. Initially, they thought Lopez was just one of the rogue cops that engage in criminal activities. However, that notion was quickly dismissed after they realized that he was a core member of a sophisticated laundering network associated with the notorious CJNG cartel. These criminals do not care about American lives, they're just in it for money. Records led to the discovery of 12 shell companies, 4 underground casinos, and 27 offshore accounts. These companies were being used to quietly move money through offshore banking corridors in Panama, Curacao, and Belize. It was evident that these were the fingerprints of an organization that operated on scale, precision, and intimidation. And the total amount traced so far? More than $90 million. With that, the investigating team came to a damning conclusion. Sheriff Lopez was the CJNG's golden pipeline into Florida's institutions, a direct conduit for a cartel known for eliminating obstacles without hesitation. With him in its corner, the cartel had unrestricted access to all county databases, law enforcement scheduling, patrol routes, courthouse staff, and communication systems. It would be easy to think the chaos ended in Florida, but it didn't. Before we go deeper, hit that subscribe button, because stories like this aren't just headlines, they're warnings every American needs to hear. What seemed like a local betrayal suddenly mapped onto a national infection. The investigating team went on and conducted cross-checks with federal intelligence networks. What they found was shocking. Several messages found on Lopez's devices that had been decrypted matched patterns using ongoing CJNG investigations across the country. Similar communication structures appeared in El Paso, where 2 officers had mysteriously resigned mid-probe. Another pattern pointed towards Santa Cruz and was tied to a narcotics detective with unexplained assets. A third connection surfaced in Northern California, where a patrol supervisor had long been suspected of leaking operation details to unauthorized parties. Piece by piece, investigators realized that they were not looking at an isolated case of corruption. They were staring at an extensive network, and Lopez was the most visible fracture point. He represented a crack in the system the cartel had capitalized on for years. Officers couldn't believe their eyes while seeing their own partners taken away in custody. Donations to local campaigns, cash in envelopes, you name it. What once carried the weight of honor had become nothing more than a currency of betrayal. Following this shocking discovery, over 700 agents from the DEA, FBI, and ICE participated in an operation named Project Sentinel. Its primary objective? To conduct internal audits that would help catch all the rogue cops that the cartel had managed to compromise. After confiscating stacks of laptops, ledgers, and hard drives, the darker truth came to light. Names of sheriffs, cops, and inspectors appeared. In the end, 19 police officers, 5 border agents, and 6 ICE operatives were arrested for involvement in this criminal network. Careers ended overnight, reputations were destroyed, and families were left in ruins. Across the state, citizens gathered in outrage, protesting the betrayal from within their own ranks. Parents, veterans, and former officers stood shoulder to shoulder, united by a shared sense of violation. Faces once trusted were now condemned as the ultimate traitors, dirty cops who had endangered American lives. But while one battlefield was being cleared, another had already erupted within the neighborhood where the cartel's facility was located. This operation also led to the arrests of 51 suspects, as well as tons of lethal fentanyl pills capable of killing millions of US citizens. For every pill removed from the streets, a life was spared, maybe a son, a mother, a friend. America will never know the full number of tragedies prevented that day, but the weight of what didn't happen is immeasurable. In the following days, Governor Ron DeSantis declared Florida's corruption crisis as a statewide emergency and pledged to fast-track policy reforms that would help to avert a situation where those entrusted to protect the American people were the ones aiding dangerous cartels to harm those very people. On the other hand, the properties that had been seized from the cartels were to be converted into rehabilitation and youth outreach centers, all aimed at helping restore what the cartel had taken away from the community. Florida aimed to regain trust from US citizens and to strive for a safer and healthier America. In the end, Florida had managed to send a chilling message to other officers like Lopez. You can run, you can scheme, you can hide behind cartel money, but eventually, the knock comes, and when it does, there is no escape.